All right, I'm back again, this time with version 4. Like usual, version 4 is exactly the same as version 3. Got my nice input validation in here. The game seems to play the way I want it. But now I just want to go through and look at some other places where I think the code can be broken down into functions that makes it easier to edit the code, maintain it, and also there's going to be some interesting design patterns that are going to start to emerge as I do a little bit more reorganizing of my code. All right, so when we look, right, one of the things that I don't like is I've got a loop within a loop, and sometimes you have to do that in programming, but I would say most of the time when you start nesting loops like this, you probably really are solving two separate problems. And that's another indication that breaking something down into functions is a good idea. All right, when I look inside this loop, this part right here that I have highlighted, that's the actual gameplay. And this code that surrounds it isn't really related to the rules of the game at all, right? It just doesn't have anything to do with knights or rabbits or anything like that. So what I want to do is I'm going to make a new function up here. It's going to be my play function. And I am going to take out all of this code that's specific to the gameplay and move it into the play function. And then I'm going to go down here and make my call to play. And so at this point, right, nothing should change. But what's going to happen is, right, when you run the program, the functions are going to be read in first. This is now going to actually be the very first line of code that's executed. So let me get my windows lined up here again. All right. So the very first thing that happened is we set the playing variable to true, and since the playing variable is true, we enter this loop once, and we go do the play function. Right? What happens to the play function? Goes up here and executes all this code, and then the game, and the play function will run until the game ends. So no, no, yes, yes, and the game ends and we won. All right, so we won the game. Would we like to play again? I'll say yes, and you can see what happened. Playing stayed true. When I typed in yes, it returned true, so playing stayed true, and we went in here and the play function got called again, so it goes up here and it does the play function. So let's just quickly end this, and would you like to play again? And I'll say no. And so when I finally said no with this prompt, playing got set to false, and it went back up here and it checked this condition, and since it's now false, right, this while loop ends, and since there's no code after it, right, we exit the program. It's right, it's all done. All right, so what I did is I tried to break apart the rules of the game versus this general would you like to play again concept here. So now I'm going to do one more thing here, and let's kind of think about just general patterns, like design patterns that exist for pretty much any game you'd ever play. So I could have like another function and have a start function. And let's say I'm just going to do, let's make a little, like, nice little title screen for our game, right? And my game is called I looked this up on. I couldn't remember the name of the actual rabbit from the movie scene, but it's the Killer Rabbit of whatever that is. And let me some more of those. Let's see. We'll just print bunch of blank lines. And let me just kind of center that up. I don't know if that's perfect or not, but you can count if you do something like this yourself to see if everything's lined up right. And copy this line. And a really neat way just to incorporate a pause in a text-based game, right? I'm just to say press enter to play, and I'm just going to put a blank input. And notice how usually I have an input and then I store the value somewhere, but this time I just want the cursor to blink and then let you hit enter. So I don't need to store what you type in. You know, I just want you to hit enter. We don't need to store that value anywhere. So I'm just going to use that input statement to be my little pause in the game. And so let's see what would happen here. Let's see, we'll when the game starts, we'll say start. Kind of group things up into playing functions. I'll make a little end function too. And print. And we'll make a call to the end function. All right, so when the program runs, all right, my game is a whole bunch of different functions, right? I've got my yes/no function. That's one small task that we have to do in our game. We have to be able to ask yes or no questions. I've got my start screen, my really fancy start screen here. Let me just realize something. There. Okay, that's better. I've got the logic of the gameplay itself, which I've incorporated in the play function, and I've got the end function, which I suppose I could fancy that up like my start screen and make that, you know, I don't know, credits for the game or something like that as well. And now when the program runs, right, I just put this comment here so you can see where it starts. The very first line of code that gets executed is this call to the start function, and it will go up here and print this nifty little start screen. When that finishes, we're going to set a variable called playing to true, and we'll enter the loop, and we go up here and we'll play. And once this play function, right, once the game ends by defeating the rabbit or all of our knights dying, right, it's going to come back and it's going to ask us if we want to play again, update the value of playing, and if it's true, it'll come back in here, we'll play again, and if playing gets updated to false, then we exit this while loop, and we go to the end function, and it'll give us a little, you know, thank you for playing message, right? Let me make sure this works. And yep, I got a start screen, and hit enter. And should we use grenade? No, no, yes. Would you like to play again? No. And got my little goodbye message, and then the game ended. All right? And I think now this code is actually pretty good. One interesting thing to look at here, right? I said we're going to start to see some design patterns, and that is, isn't this every game you ever have played? It doesn't matter if you're on an old school Nintendo or you know, the latest PlayStation, right? Every single game you play has some sort of start screen, and then you get to keep playing until you'll keep playing the game over and over again until you decide to quit. And then when you exit the game, it probably goes to some kind of end screen, and then you can shut it down or whatever you're going to do. But this pattern, right, this is a general algorithm that is pretty much every game title you'd ever want to play. And if you go through this code, what I think is hopefully you're starting to see is, let's say we had an entirely different kind of game we wanted to play. I wanted to make a you know, a Hangman game or a tic-tac-toe game or something like that, right? I could use that still. I really would just have to get in here, and I'm just going to change my play function to be rules for a different game. And if my different game has different kinds of input, I might make some extra functions to kind of handle the input validation and stuff, but still, right, really, if I had a different idea for a game that was based on yes/no questions, 20-question game or something like that, perhaps, yeah. All I'd have to do is change the rules of the game in play, and none of this changes, right? So that's, hopefully you're starting to see why programs are structured a certain way. All right, so I think I'm going to end it here, and I think what I would do at this point, if you haven't done so yourself, is I've got version 1 of the code available for download, all right, on the assignment post. And if you download version 1 of the code and watch through each of the videos and try to get your code updated to match what mine looks like at the end of version 4, I would first do that, and then look on the assignment post, and you're going to see a list of some other suggestions that you can do to the game and some questions that you can ask yourself to make sure you fully understand not only how the game works, right, what each line does, but some questions to make sure you understand the rationale behind my decisions to structure the game the way I did. All right, so I think I'm going to end this video now. Hope that was helpful.